so you're not a birther. Like, no, no, I'm not.
Y'all remember that? That was Glenn Beck. Remember that? Me and Glenn Beck. And Glenn Beck was so angry that he went on his own show. Play that again, Sheik, before we bring in our guest. Hey, Glenn Beck on the radio show, and I brought up the issue of birther or proofer. And like Bill O'Reilly, Glenn Beck got angry, and it went something like this.
I was on the air with somebody today, and they're like, so you're not a birther. Like, no, no, I'm not. Nope. You don't know there's a lot of stuff in his life early on where I said, yeah, no, I'm concentrating on the things that are taking away our rights right now. But then I've been thinking about it now that the Overlord did stop by. We should check because he may have been born someplace and carried in on the wings of, what are those birds that carried Kim Jong-il in after his birth?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he might have been born in Bethlehem.
Yeah. I don't think Kim Jong-il was born in Bethlehem.
No, but Barack might have been.
Barack may have been.
And if he was born in Bethlehem, I say that's fine.
The occupied territories around Bethlehem.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. So that was Glenn Beck. And Bill O'Reilly treats it the same way. So for those of you to think that it is this conservative, there's the two leading conservatives right now, that Bill O'Reilly, who has been dead flat caught in things he said he saw, as well as that man, Glenn Beck. Now, I have to tell everybody, before I set this up, the story is an Army doctor by the name of Lieutenant Colonel Terry Lakin, born in Greeley, Colorado. Interestingly enough, is an active duty flight surgeon, physician. He was charged, in fact, with his last assignment with caring for the Army's Chief of Staff, General George Casey's pilots and air crew. And he is testing the birther-proofer theory. The Army now has announced December the 14th, and this is something we're going to get really involved in, and saying we're going to start to say, look, the guy's a month out, and they're saying we need to, just with like Ramos and Campion and so many other things that the morning show has been involved with, Bobby Wallace, go down the line, we are going to do what we can to help this man. And it is going to be going and barraging the Congress that starts to sit this week, newly elected members of the House and Senate, and drive home the fact that this decorated 18-year-old serving Army officer with numerous deployments overseas, recipient of Bronze Stars, facing imprisonment for defying the military orders to seek assurance that the Commander-in-Chief, the SINC, is constitutionally eligible to serve in his current post. Now, what is this about? Here it is. Why is the president now spending $2.5 million to hide a birth certificate and a bunch of other bona fide documents worth, really, if you think his birth certificate is worth less than $20? Colonel Lakin has put his career on the line. He needs everyone's help to end this conspiracy of silence. Timid politicians, weak-kneed judges, punked out by whom? By the charge of what? Citizens in our country need to ratchet up the pressure and demand that Colonel Lakin be allowed to at least defend himself. Please say good morning to, we're going to use his first name only, Al, and Jerry Corsi. Now, first of all, hey, Dr. Corsi, good morning.
Hey, Peter, how are you?
You didn't even know this was going to happen because it happened that quick.
Right.
And this is Al. Al, good morning to you.
Good morning, gentlemen.
And Al contacted me over the weekend because he saw or listened to the interview that you posted when we got we were the first radio station, the best of my knowledge, to get an interview with Colonel Lakin's brother, who is also a physician, and his name is Gary Lakin.
Right.
And Dr. Gary Lakin is in Kansas. And good work by our morning show producer, Greg Hollenbach. And so that, you posted that interview, and it went, as they say, viral, and Alan in another state heard it.
Right.
So, Alan, I know that you don't want to speak that much about yourself, and I understand why. I mean, there's a fear factor here. But a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with Wikipedia.
Well, like a lot of people, I just started to use Wikipedia as a source of information, and every once in a while, if there was something I had some level of expertise in, I would make small edits. It's very much a hobby. I'm not one of these people that sits on Wikipedia day and night. I just do it as a hobby.
May I ask how old you are? And if I go anywhere that you think you're going to step out into an area that you're uncomfortable with, please say so right away. So may I ask you how old you are?
I'd just rather, if you prefer, with all due respect, sir, I'd just like to steer away from anything about myself and just stay focused on Mr. Lakin, Lieutenant Colonel Lakin, and what happened to my Wikipedia article. May
I ask you why you got interested in the Lakin story?
Yes, sir. I think it's fascinating that someone with a history of so much service to their country and who've put a lot into their career, medical school, plus all his work and deployment in the military, would risk all that for something a lot of people think is kind of a far-out idea. And I found it interesting enough that I started to search on Google News every day to see if there was an update on the case. I've been following it, and I was kind of dumbfounded by the lack of coverage. And it almost got to the point where I didn't know much about Lieutenant Colonel Lakin, and I thought, well, maybe there's something on Wikipedia about him. And I was kind of shocked when I went there and found that someone had once put up an entry called Terry Lakin, and that had been taken down, and then it had been redirected to a more general article called Barack Obama Birth Conspiracies, which is a little bit of a hack job by Wikipedia standards. It seems pretty biased. But that article was taken down, and the reason given was that it was called a stub, which in Wikipedia terminology means a short article without sufficient references. So last weekend, I set out to make a proper Wikipedia article the best that I could, and I actually used as a template the entry of another military officer, McChrystal, who recently stepped down. But I thought, well, if this is how they write one for McChrystal, I'll use the same template as far as formatting, and then just delete all his information and build a brand new entry page for Lieutenant Colonel Lakin. I then spent 4 or 5 hours going to every reference source I could find about his years of service, any ribbons he had been awarded where he'd been deployed, and then also any court cases, and used all that information as references. I linked PDF scans from the pretrial that happened at Fort Meade, put all that stuff up into an article, and then, well, the next question I'm sure you'll ask me is what happened. I'll be happy to tell you.
Jerry, by the way, Al, do you know who Dr. Corsi is before we take this any further?
I was told that he works or possibly in charge of WorldNet Daily.
He's not in charge, but he has written a number of books. He wrote Unfit for Command, and then he was considered to be a right-wing attacker, and then he did some stories on George Bush, some books on George Bush, and he sort of became the person non grata. He never existed anymore in Republican and conservative radio. And then he has begun to take on this issue of the birth. He's traveled to Africa. He's traveled to Hawaii. He's uncovered so many things, so many holes in the Obama story. And he was scheduled to be with us this morning on another story that he's done on Congress. But I thought, oh, my God, we got to bring Dr. Corsi in to hear this because he writes for WorldNet. And I'm only guessing, Jerry, that this will be a WorldNet story tomorrow.
Yeah, we can certainly. I think we've covered it to some extent already, but we can certainly feature it.
Did you know that did you know that Wikipedia had done this to Al?
I got emails over the weekend pointing it out to me.
And has it been up on WorldNet yet?
I haven't. I'll have to search to see if we actually covered it yet. We've covered an awfully lot about Lakin, but I don't know about this.
I didn't see it. I mean, I looked there this morning after I got the call. What we have done, and then I'm going to take a break and come back, and we'll continue with Al telling the story, is we now have, Jerry, we call it Pedopedia. We have what was taken down from Wikipedia, and we have it up on our website, KHOW.com.
Okay, that's good.
This is, I mean, it's very septic. It simply states the facts. It takes it no further than that. There's no speculation. Now, I read this now a couple of different times. I read it after you sent it to Greg, and I got to tell you something. There's nothing here that I find to be out of line.